Vladimir?
Next time in Moscow.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I don't know. I'll get a little heat on that one. But
New images being released by the Kremlin tonight show how President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin wrapped up today's high-stakes meeting in Alaska. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to West Coast Wrap. I'm Alex Savage. The two world leaders failed to secure an agreement that would end Russia's war in Ukraine, but President Trump called their talks very productive. The negotiations happened as large crowds of pro-Ukrainian demonstrators lined many of the streets in Anchorage. KTVU's John Krinjak has been following today's developments in Alaska. He joins us now live tonight with a look at what both leaders are saying after that meeting. John?
Yeah, Alex, the two leaders giving a few specifics and not taking any questions from reporters. The meeting coming 3.5 years, almost to the week since Russia invaded Ukraine. That nation's President Vladimir Zelensky was notably not at today's meeting. It's believed that was at Putin's request.
there's no deal until there's a deal.
President Trump expressing cautious optimism about ending the war in Ukraine, which has gone on for 3.5 years now, following Friday's closely watched Alaska summit with Russian President Putin.
We had an extremely productive meeting, and many points were agreed to. There are just a very few that are left. Some are not that significant. One is probably the most significant, but we have a very good chance of getting there.
Trump very light on details of what those key points are, though he did say earlier that territory swaps would likely be discussed.
I would like to hope that the agreement that we've reached together will help us bring closer that goal and will pave the path towards peace in Ukraine.
The meeting, initially slated as a one-on-one, also involving Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, along with two high-level Russian officials, but notably absent the president of Ukraine.
So ultimately up to them. They're going to have to agree.
Who recently said this.
The war continues precisely because there's no order nor any intention that Moscow is preparing to end this war.
Stanford political scientist Catherine Stoner skeptical of any so-called deal.
I just don't think any agreement is going to be worth paper that it's written on with Putin in charge.
Former U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine Steve Pfeiffer says economic sanctions are key.
If the Russians are beginning to change course, make sure that you have that leverage that you can slap back on them.
And experts say any lasting peace would obviously require a meeting that actually involves Zelensky.
There's no way to end this war, I think, without involving the president of the country that's been invaded in the negotiation.
The Ukrainians have agency. At the end of the day, the Ukrainians can always say, no, that's not acceptable.
Now, Zelensky and Trump say they plan to speak on the phone to talk about how the meeting went. Putin, meanwhile, says, as you heard, he wants his next meeting with Trump to be in Moscow. Trump not committing to that. Alex?
All right, we will see what happens next in these ongoing negotiations. John Krinjak, live in the newsroom. John, thank you for that. Well, we spoke with UCSF Professor Stephen Zunez shortly after the two world leaders spoke today, and he told us that while no details of that agreement were made public, the Alaska meeting was a win for President Putin.
The United States has literally rolled out the red carpet to Putin on American soil. The Trump administration has made clear that they will not continue to consider the Kremlin and international pariah. They are willing to work with them to try to figure something out.
And Zuna says one key issue will be whether Putin agrees to allow security guarantees for Ukraine against any future Russian aggression. And our coverage of this high-stakes meeting in Alaska continues online. Head over to westcoastwrap.com for a slideshow of some of the moments from today's encounter between the two world leaders. Well, California lawmakers are set to return to Sacramento this Monday to move forward with plans to redraw congressional lines by taking a new map to voters in a special election. Legislative leaders just released that new map. It was just yesterday that California Governor Gavin Newsom, Democrats and labor leaders all held a rally in L.A. to launch their redistricting campaign as the no side, which includes former Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, begin to mount their opposition. Democrats and their advisors are targeting 5 Republican seats with this map. They include Representative Doug LaMalfa in District 1 in the northern part of California, Kevin Kiley in District 3, currently along the California-Nevada border, and David Valadao in District 22 in the central part of the state. The map also targets Congressman Ken Calvert in District 41 in Riverside County and Darrell Issa in District 48 in San Diego County. In the map's cover letter, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee wrote, quote, "We strongly believe this map serves the best interest of California voters while also attempting to push back against the corrupt scheme occurring in Texas." Critics, however, disagree.
This is a straight political power play by Governor Newsom. Just if you look at the line that takes, or the lines that basically connect the Golden Gate Bridge with Modoc County, that's just a sheer power play. And it's why the maps you see today are why the voters of California took this authority away from the legislature, and it still should be taken away from the legislature. It's a bunch of self-serving nonsense.
Congressman Kiley put out a statement this afternoon writing, quote, "Make no mistake, I will win re-election to the House regardless of the proposed changes to my district, but I fully expect the beautiful 3rd District will remain exactly as it is. We will defeat Newsom's sham initiative and vindicate the will of California voters." Well, video from a ride-along with federal agents is showing Border Patrol agents making 2 immigration arrests in LA County.
Get out of here! Do you have a warrant?
It was a tense and chaotic scene outside of Los Angeles Home Depot as agents confronted a Guatemalan woman at a food stand. She was taken into custody as other people in this area hurled insults at the agents. The immigration enforcement operation moved on then to a car wash in nearby Montebello. It appears at least 2 men were arrested there. The Associated Press crew that was riding along with those federal agents says that law enforcement worked quickly to get their targets into custody.
I want to spend more than 10 minutes maximum at these locations. They call it time on the X, X being the target location. The longer they stay, the more likely they're going to get protesters to come and run into problems. They want to get in and out, and that's what they did today.
It remains unclear how many people were taken into custody during today's immigration enforcement operations. And a short time ago, a large crowd gathered in Monrovia, northeast of LA, to honor the life of a man who died while allegedly trying to escape federal agents who were carrying out an immigration raid in that community. Roberto Carlos Montoya Valdez was hit by a car on the freeway after running away from a Home Depot parking lot. He later died at the hospital. The man's death has sparked outrage among many in this community who are calling for an end to the raids.
For like 20 people, there were like 10 cars. They were blazing guns to this laborer, and they were forcing him to tell them he had no papers.
A man ran out onto the freeway, and then we heard he was killed.
Oh, someone took a picture.
And
of what?
It's just a tragic, senseless death.
The Department of Homeland Security says the man was not being pursued by any DHS law enforcement. It issued a statement that says, in part, quote, "We do not know their legal status. We were not aware of this incident or notified by California Highway Patrol until hours after operations in the area had concluded." The American Civil Liberties Union of Nevada is suing that state's DMV. The ACLU claims the Nevada DMV refused to release documents about its communications with Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Representatives from the ACLU say only a small set of incomplete records were released when they sent a formal demand through the Attorney General's office. This suit is the result of several unmet requests over the course of 6 months for the DMV to share their internal policies and communications with ICE. Now they want all of those records released in full. Well, people across the Phoenix area are cleaning up tonight after being hit by overnight monsoon storms. Fox 10's Kenzie Beach shows us some of the damage that the severe weather left behind.
I'm standing right in the middle of Thursday night's monsoon destruction. This 45-year-old tree completely ripped from its roots out of the ground. It's now blocking this entire roadway at 63rd and Greenway, this neighborhood losing power.
And I looked, I'm like, what is missing? I'm like, oh my God, the tree's gone.
Ryan Smith and his Scottsdale neighbors saw the eye of Thursday night's storm, leaving his front yard unrecognizable.
Disastrous, looks like a tornado came through.
You've got one wind blowing this way, the other wind blowing harder that way, and they're crossing each other, and then it's nothing, and then all of a sudden it's up again.
The storm leaving branches, debris, trash cans, and entire trees all over this North Scottsdale street.
Wall's gone, and so now we're just kind of picking up the pieces.
It made for a busy and very chaotic morning for landscaping companies like Dwight Weller's, having to fill trailer after trailer.
Havoc, a lot of phone calls, and they go, well, a lot of them are, we have stuff in the street that needs to be moved. We can't get our cars out of the driveways.
It is monsoon season, but this storm so strong it cut power for several blocks.
It's Phoenix, Arizona. You never know.
Crazy. Like I said, I couldn't even see the street from my window.
You can just barely see any asphalt when you're going down this road.
Even though this tree is still blocking the road, some stuff still has to get done, like this mailman driving on the sidewalk to deliver mail to these homes. In Scottsdale, Kenzie Beach, Fox 10 News.
And a live look here over the Phoenix area at this hour, where drier weather is expected for the weekend. I'll have a look at what we're expecting in Arizona and the rest of the West coming up.
Water coming down this river, about 60,000 cubic feet per second, which is enough to fill up an Olympic-sized swimming pool in about 2 seconds.
But the worst case flooding scenario never happened this week in Alaska. Coming up tonight on West Coast Wrap, we'll tell you what engineers think spared homes and businesses in this community. Plus, a man accused of trying to snatch a woman's baby right out of a stroller at a Utah train station, how a bystander stepped in to help. A man is in custody tonight for reportedly trying to kidnap a baby off of a train platform in Utah. This is surveillance footage from July 28th at the South Salt Lake Tracks Meadowbrook station. It shows a man appear to speak to a woman with a stroller and then point a finger in her face, strike her, and then bend down to remove the baby. A bystander then rushed in and helped to scare the man off. Police say they have arrested 56-year-old Benjamin Dillman. He is now facing charges of attempted child kidnapping as well as assault. The man convicted of killing 4 college students in Idaho has complaints about his new living conditions in prison. According to TMZ, Brian Coberger says he's being taunted by inmates at Idaho's maximum security prison. While he's in solitary confinement, he says inmates are screaming at him through vents, preventing him from being able to sleep. Coberger moved to this prison last month after being sentenced to 4 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. Idaho's Department of Corrections has issued a statement on Coberger's complaints. It reads in part, quote, "We are aware of Coberger's complaints about what he considers taunting. Incarcerated individuals commonly communicate with each other in prison. Brian Coberger is housed alone in a cell, and IDOC security staff maintain a safe and orderly environment for all individuals in our custody." Well, prosecutors now are opening up about the 2.5 years they spent on Coberger's case. They told Fox 13's Shiro Matsuzawa that they understand some of the moves they made may have been controversial.
November 13th, 2022. The day the world lost 4 bright lights. Ethan Chapin, Kaylee Gonsalves, Madison Mogan, and Xana Kernodle. And for 2.5 years, their lives and what happened to them captivated the world. Then, last month, Brian Coberger took a plea deal and admitted to killing the 4 University of Idaho students.
Are you pleading guilty because you are guilty?
Yes.
I knew he was guilty. Our investigators knew he was guilty. But hearing it from his own mouth and dispelling any doubters out there as to his guilt, I felt some satisfaction with that.
Bill Thompson was the lead prosecutor on the case. He and Senior Deputy Prosecutor Ashley Jennings have worked it from day one.
This case is just full of tragedy.
He told me the 2.5 years they worked on this case is now starting to catch up to them, because leading up to the trial, they had been working 7-day work weeks to prepare. That is, until the plea deal.
And sure, I can tell you right up front, we were never looking for a plea in this case.
And when the defense reached out and asked if they would be interested in making an offer,
our response was, what is it that your client wants to do? And our next response was to schedule meetings with all of the victims.
Thompson acknowledges there are mixed views from the families of the victims when it comes to that agreement.
We understand and respect, where everybody was coming from.
And when it comes to the sentencing hearing and sitting in court as the victim impact statements were given, Jennings called it heavy.
There was a palpable energy and sense of grief throughout the courtroom. I struggled.
Of course, there are still so many questions that we may never know the answers to, like the motive.
Why this happened, what the connection was between him and the victims, we don't believe we will ever know.
I also asked about the recently released crime scene photos.
I don't want to cast stones, but I think there is a fundamental disagreement between our opinion on what should be released and what the legal counsel for the city of Moscow believes.
As for the families, Thompson called them phenomenal people.
Seeing their pain and seeing the grief, and this is so tragic and so violent and so senseless. They have each shown strength in amazing ways.
Shira Matsuzawa, Fox 13 News.
A month after Sean Diddy Combs was acquitted on the most serious charges in his sex trafficking trial, he has now notched another legal victory. TMZ reports a judge has dismissed all but one of the claims in a lawsuit against Combs that was brought by a former singer on the MTV show Making the Band. In her suit filed back in February, Rivers claimed that Combs subjected her to hostile and inhumane treatment on the reality show. I talked with TMZ's Michael Babcock about why most of this case was tossed out.
A lot of it had to do with statute of limitations, just the fact that she had waited too long to file this lawsuit. If it's something that she had done years back, then perhaps it would be a different story. But statute of limitations is what it is. And because of that, the judge says, look, this is just not applicable here.
And the judge dismissed those claims brought by singer Sarah Rivers without prejudice, meaning they cannot be refiled in the future. Combs is scheduled to be sentenced in his criminal trial in early October. Well, the weekend gets started with a rare August atmospheric river that's crossing western Washington. Cameras set up outside Seattle-Tacoma International Airport and across the city show the wet and foggy conditions that people are facing across the region. People taking in tonight's preseason Seahawks game in Seattle, well, they can't count on the conditions getting much better tonight. This is a live look at Lumen Field where this game is happening. The Seahawks taking on last season's AFC champions, the Kansas City Chiefs there. And hopefully, we know folks brought their rain jackets if they were headed to the game tonight. Let's bring in KTVU meteorologist Rosemary Orozco, who is tracking the wet weather up in the Pacific Northwest. It feels unusual for this early in the season.
Especially this wet, Alex.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about up to an inch of rainfall expected through areas of Seattle over the next 12 hours or so before the wet weather tapers off. As we showed you just a moment ago, you can see the game there is a wet one in Seattle this afternoon, upper 60s reported there. Here's a look at the West Coast satellite and radar, and you can see the front marching over areas of the Pacific Northwest as we speak. And so that rain is going to continue. Meanwhile, over the Four Corners, lots of thunderstorm activity here earlier today. And there was even 1 to 4 inches of rainfall that fell due to the monsoonal moisture pulling in up from the south. So a look here at some of that subtropical cloud cover, a beautiful view of Phoenix here closer to sunset this evening. The afternoon high in Phoenix today, 104. It was baking, and then you add in the relative humidity being high, and it's hot and sticky. How about what we can expect for the next 24 to 48 hours? Notice areas over the Pacific Northwest, including Seattle, Portland, expected to get a good amount of rainfall between now and when the system finally pushes out. The areas over the Four Corners, including the Phoenix area, expected to get a little bit more rainfall, and even Northern California. A possibility here over the next 24 hours, stretching all the way down to the San Francisco Bay Area. And it has to do with the front that is moving through. The timestamp here, tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock. And there it is, bringing just a very slight chance of sprinkles to the Bay Area. But farther north, there's a good chance, and even thunderstorms that risk will be there for the next 24 hours as well. So as we take a look forward into the weekend and beyond, starting with the Pacific Northwest, tomorrow morning, that system pushes out and Seattle is going to be dry for the rest of the weekend with temperatures bouncing back into the 70s. Meanwhile, around the Bay, going to be a mild one. Do begin to see a rebound on Monday. Southern California going to get a nice warm up coming back for the back end of the weekend and into the start of Monday as a warming trend kicks off next week for California. Phoenix also drying out and going to remain with triple-digit heat for the weekend and beyond. Thunderstorms in the forecast tomorrow for Denver. Back to you.
All right, Rosemary, thank you. Coming up tonight here on West Coast Wrap, Apple has an upgrade for users of its wearable technology. What Apple Watch users need to do before they can tap into it. Engineers believe a new project likely saved parts of Alaska from severe flooding this week. Fox's William Lajeunesse shows us what's helping to hold back water.
This river behind us was probably 12 feet higher than it is right now.
It could have been a disaster, but Alaska's capital was spared from historic flooding this week when new barriers installed along the Mendenhall River held back record levels of water and prevented widespread damage. It started Wednesday when an ice dam at a nearby glacier released a massive amount of rainwater and snowmelt.
You can imagine there's just a torrent of water coming down this river. About 60,000 cubic feet per second, which is enough to fill up an Olympic-sized swimming pool in about 2 seconds.
The dam break prompted evacuations in Juneau, but unlike previous years, no damage reported, no homes destroyed. The floods have become an annual concern, with glacial melt each spring filling a basin with water.
The Mendenhall Glacier is acting as a dam, and so it impounds water. This year it was about 16 billion gallons of water.
Residents are happy the new barriers held, but they're not without controversy. Homeowners covered 40% of the cost, about $6,000 per household over the next decade. But with floods expected to return for at least the next 60 years, there were few formal complaints.
A lot of the planning that's taking place is looking forward to, what can we do to protect homes for the next number of decades.
The Army Corps of Engineers is studying the situation and plans for a more permanent solution. In Los Angeles, William Lajeunesse, Fox News.
And finally tonight, a health feature is making a comeback on Apple Watches. The Silicon Valley-based tech giant says its blood oxygen app is returning to Series 9, 10, and Ultra watches. It was removed 2 years ago because of a patent dispute. The newly redesigned feature will calculate blood oxygen levels on paired iPhones rather than on the watch itself. According to Apple, the return of this feature was allowed because of a recent U.S. Customs ruling. You will need to ensure that software for both your watch and your iPhone are paired together and updated in order to access that feature. That does it for West Coast Wrap tonight. We appreciate you watching, and a quick reminder before we go tonight, you can stay up to date on all the major stories we're covering across the West at westcoastwrap.com, and you can stream our shows for free on your smart TV by downloading the Fox Local app.